I've always been a big believer in the power of the voice. The thing that we always talked about with radio is the fact that it's the theater of the mind.
Your competitors, standby power dealers that are listening, your competitors are using radio, and you're driving in and you're hearing it, and there is a way to make that happen. Welcome to the Standby Generator Podcast, brought to you by Power Alliance. I'm your host, Jim Swetman. Together, we will dive into the world of the standby power business, offering expert insights, industry trends, and actionable strategies to help you grow and scale your generator business. Whether you're looking to optimize your operations, increase profitability, or stay ahead of the curve, this podcast is your go-to resource. So grab a seat and let's power up your business for success. Hello and welcome to this week's Standby Generator Podcast. My name is Jim Swetman, your host. And this week, extremely excited to have on board with us Mike Whittmore. Mike is a voiceover and media professional who's been around just a couple of years.
Yes,
doing
the dawn of time.
doing radio and things like that. So welcome, Mike. Just to have you on here with our podcast. I know this is your first time here, and you look fantastic.
I've never been on a podcast before. I'm totally flummoxed. Hello, Mr. Swetman. It is a pleasure and a privilege to be here. Thank you.
Yes. Well, so Mike, we're going to talk about radio and some other ways that some of our standby power dealers out there can take a look at advertising themselves, because that it's all about telling the story. And you were just instrumental with me at Home Power Systems in putting together radio spots, and not only just the radio ads, but how to properly place them, when to place them, and things like that. But before we get into all that, Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and how long you've been doing this?
I was in radio sales and production for my 45 plus year career. I moved to Rochester, New York in 1978. I figured it was going to be just the next step in a long process. And then about a year and a half in, I met my wife, and she says, I'm never moving. And all right. And then fortunately the internet came along. So as time went on, um, I was selling for WHAM radio here in Rochester, which at that time, before the internet, it was a 50,000 watt blowtorch. You could hear it in 38 states in Canada, and everybody knew WHAM. It was the number one station in this market, and my life was pretty easy. I mean, it was fun. It was great fun, and I loved talking to local businesses and meeting people like yourself, and figuring out what their problems were, and figuring out how to tell their stories, and just kind of took it from there. And I did that for many years. And over the years, as the internet became more and more important, I learned quite a bit about it, and found that many of the commercials that I was writing and voicing weren't just on the radio anymore. They were on streaming services. They were on the radio station streaming services, and also on YouTube, and uh, Facebook and Instagram, and on and on and on. I've always been a big believer in the power of the voice. The thing that we always talked about with radio is the fact that it's the theater of the mind. Um, you can tell stories on the radio, and depending on how you do it, you can use sound effects, you can use other voices. I mean, it's just unbelievable the things that you can leave in people's minds. The other thing, frankly, that I've always been a big fan of and will continue to be is jingles, and we can
Hmm.
ultimately talk about that a little bit too. You know,
Hmm.
cigarette advertising on radio and television stopped in about 1970, yet you can still remember, Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. I mean, that's the power of music. That's the power of audio.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so, in terms of how we used it for you, I'm probably rambling a little bit here, so you can
Oh,
stop me,
no,
and
it's fine.
and
No, no,
we'll
no.
we'll kind of go back and
Oh, it's
forth a
fine.
little bit in terms of
Yeah.
how we were able to create the program we
Yeah.
did for home power systems.
I think some of the listeners here, especially some of the younger guys that may be either starting standby power dealers or in the middle of it and wondering, is radio still relevant? Is radio still powerful enough where they want to invest in that? Can you answer that for me, Mike?
Sure.
What is your thing on that?
Yes, radio is still relevant, but it's not relevant in quite the same way. Um, Truth be told, um, there aren't many listeners to radio under the age of 35. For the most part, teens, 18 to 24s, 25 to 34s, they're listening to a lot of streaming. They're still listening to the radio, but radio isn't as important to them as it used to be. Um, but from the standpoint of more adult listeners, people
Yep.
35 plus, 45 plus, particularly boomers, people like us, um, we are still listening to radio more than ever before. And that is one of the things you got to keep in mind. I think if if you are running a home backup generator company like Jim ran for many years and had tremendous success with, your customers are people who are 50 plus, 60 plus,
Yes. Yep.
70 plus. There are a lot of people with a lot of reasons for wanting to have power, needing to have power, and it's not just comfort. In many cases, people
Yep.
who have breathing difficulties, or difficulties with
Yep.
their hearts or whatever. They have
Yep.
home products that they have to have working to survive.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and Jim, you can probably talk about that
Yep.
to every bit as much of a degree as I
Oh
can,
yeah.
because those were your customers for many years.
This episode of the Standby Generator Podcast is proudly presented by Power Alliance, the only mastermind community built specifically for standby generator dealers. At Power Alliance, we believe growth happens faster when you're connected. That's why we bring together like minded dealers across the country to share real world insights, solve challenges, and accelerate business success together. From streamlining operations to scaling your service division, Power Alliance gives you the tools, support, and community to take your business to the next level. Learn more and join the movement at www.poweralliance.com. Yeah, what's great is radio. When I ran home power systems, it was the number one return on investment for me. And there's a number of reasons why. One is exactly the demographic is the standby power buyers are 55 years and over that are buying it. The kids are all out of the house now. They want to take care of themselves. The house is paid for. Generac just came out with some very detailed statistics about who is buying, what is their income, the general income, what is the value of their house, and that is exactly the market that radio hits. So it just worked out fantastic for me. And I'll just talk about how radio, how we managed at Home Power our radio campaign. Thank you to you, Mike, because you had just tremendous experience about when to run the ads. And what we did is one of the first things that you told me is that, Jim, if you think that you're just going to run ads for 30 days and you're going to see the phone ring, it isn't going to happen. It needs to be a long term commitment, 1 year commitments to sign up. And then with that, we can cater to storms. We can build libraries of different ads that we can run, including all the different things that you do, service and maintenance. Let's do a couple of radio ads on that. Let's run some radio ads on new installations. Let's run some radio ads on, hey, weather specific, so that we can have those in the library. And you managed all that for me. So when we knew there was going to be a big windstorm here,
Right.
and we always knew a couple of days in advance, Mike, we had a library of 2 or 3 commercials, and they were like, hey, are you sure that your generator is going to be prepared for the outage that's coming? And we were hitting people that had existing generators that probably weren't even our customers, but at least we made them go out and check their generator. And if the red light was on, they called Home Power Systems because they just heard our radio ad. Or probably what happened is they tried to call the dealer that put it in, and they were probably out of business,
Right.
or they didn't do maintenance anymore.
Yeah.
So we were grabbing everything, and it was all about telling the story and telling and being specific about what we were doing with those ads. And we had put together, how many ads, Mike, did we have
Oh, I don't
running?
know,
I
probably
mean,
200 or 300 ads over the.
yeah,
We did business what for 15 years.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we
The
probably did 200 or 300 ads in total.
Yeah, and it just worked out. So the dealers that are listening out there, I think radio is part of your marketing campaign and sales campaign. You obviously have all the digital marketing that you have, and you may have a company that you've hired to go ahead to do all your digital marketing, but do not forget about radio, because one of the things that drove me to radio is that on the way to work in the morning, I was driving. This is back when I first started Home Power, and my competitor was running radio ads, and that made me angry
So
because I'm like,
it was your insecurity and jealousy, that drove this whole thing.
it
No,
was.
the fact of the matter is you are right, and even now, when it comes to digital marketing, um, I I'm amazed at the number of people that I still run into who say, well, I'm just doing digital marketing. That's all I have to do. Well, you know what? I mean, that's all well and good. But the fact is that, if you really start digging deep into who the people are that are advertising and marketing within your category, you know, some of those people, those people could just be fly by night people who are doing stuff in their garage, but because they've got a friend or a company who's good at making them look like a big deal, they can look like a huge deal on the internet. But they may well not be. And the fact of the matter is that the the internet works better for businesses that are also using those old fashioned things like radio or television or whatever, that if you go to the internet and you see companies that you've heard of, hey, guess what? You're a lot more likely to pick up the phone and talk to those people as opposed to
Yeah.
talking to somebody else. And listen, I'm going to maybe go out on a limb here. We haven't talked about this ahead of time, but um, truth be
Uh oh.
told, I
Uh
am
oh.
I am not a fan of trying to track every single ad process or advertising vehicle that you use to see who's working and who isn't, because the fact of the matter is it's all designed to work together, and in fact, some of these internet people got very, very smart very early on. They said, "Hey, we want you to track. Here, let's use this special phone number, and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
gonna use that phone number, and then we'll take credit for everybody who calls on that phone number." Well, what happens these days? People use the internet like they used to use the yellow pages. So if you hear the ad on the radio, then what do? You probably go to the internet, you look up the company, and you call the number that's on the page. So
Mhm. Mhm.
it's
I agree. I agree.
you know what I'm
Yeah, I agree.
saying? So I mean, the fact
Yeah.
that all you're trying to do is to drive results and get results, and truth be told, you're not always going to know, who it was that drove that call. And the fact of the matter is, the more advertising you do, the less likely it is. It's one of those things. It's a
Mhm.
combination of all those things that you're doing that generates the phone calls, that generates the business. So that's why it's very, very important to to be on radio, maybe be on
Yeah.
television, and do the more traditional advertising um,
Yep.
uh,
Yes.
approaches,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well as having your internet exposure.
Yep. For sure. In fact, let's go ahead and play one of our ads right now. And just this one just happens to be about maintenance, about maintaining your generator. So let's go ahead and play this, and we'll give the audience here an idea of what we had put together for us.
Was your home standby generator installed by someone other than Home Power Systems? When was the last time it was serviced? A couple, 2, 3 years ago? Call Home Power Systems. They're factory trained and certified to service all makes of home standby generators. A home standby generator is only as good as the service it gets. With a Home Power Systems service contract, you can be sure when the power goes out, your power stays on.
Home Power Systems, generating peace of mind.
421-0203 and homepowersystems.net.
Boom. So you see, we had the jingle, Mike, right? You put together the jingle there,
Yep.
and we had everything, and that's just one example of what we had put together, and you can see how you can expand on that and all the details that are going on with that.
One of
Mike,
the one of the things I think maybe we ought to get to is the fact that over the years, we quite a few of your ads were done by local radio personalities, and we paid them an endorsement fee so that they would come on and say, "Hey, let me tell you about Home Power Systems. I mean, these people are my friends. They worked at my house. They did my thing." The more ways you can find to be personal with your radio ad, the better off you'll be. So there are so many different uh, approaches that you can take, and it all grows and molds and comes together into one big cohesive unit that drives the bus.
that works. Yeah, we had the live reads going on during the day. We had Bob Lonsberry doing the live reads. It was really great about those 2 or 3 times a week at lunch hour. What was really great about that with the live reads is if there was a snowstorm or if there was a windstorm coming or rainstorm, he was able to immediately adapt,
Right.
and it hit those listeners right in the eyes. On the Saturday morning program on the home repair clinic,
Yep.
I
Those
would
guys
come
did
on
live
as
ads for years.
yeah, as a special guest, I would come on there. So if there are radio stations, if some of the dealers are listening and there are radio stations that have, the home repair clinic or anything like that on Saturday or Sunday, try and get on there as the expert
Yep.
because I was considered the standby generator expert in the Rochester market. I actually went in the Syracuse market. I found out who the radio station was in the Syracuse market and got on there live and would do a 15 or 20-minute segment, about that. So again, it's getting more involved. It's telling people about what you do, telling story and being consistent about what it is. And it's not just a couple of weeks or a month and then you're mad because you just spent whatever money and the phone didn't ring. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. Your competitors, standby power dealers that are listening, your competitors are using radio and you're driving it and you're hearing it. And there is a way to make that happen. Mike, how do people get a hold of you, Mike? What's the best way for people to get a hold of you to
You
expand
can get a hold of
and
me
work with them?
a number of different ways. You know, I am retired, but I am still working part time, and you know, I can never be too busy. So you can reach me on my cell phone at 585-750-2000. It's 585-750-2000. You can also reach me. Probably the best way is by Gmail. This, you know, I thought that this web address was really a great idea. I don't know if it is or if it isn't. It's WHIT records RECORDS ads Wit records ads, all one word, at gmail.com. In New Jersey, call collect. Operators are standing by. Here's how to order.
Perfect. Mike, where do you see radio in the next 5 years? Where do you see it?
I think radio
Is
is going to be incredibly powerful for the next 5 years. I think radio is going to be incredibly powerful for the next 20 years. Um,
Mhm.
Ultimately, you're going to I think that radio's audience is going to grow through its streaming capabilities with the
Mhm.
younger people, with the teens and 18 to 24, 25 to 34. But, you know, for the foreseeable future,
Yeah.
the more mature adults like us will continue to listen to their
Yes.
radios on a daily basis, and and frankly, I think they're going to feel lost without it.
Yes. Yep. No, I agree. I agree. Well, Mike, thank you very much for your insights and everything you did there. It has worked. It's still going to work. So again, if there are any dealers out there, please be sure to get a hold of Mike Whittemore for that.
It is
All right.
a
Well, thanks.
pleasure
Yeah.
and a privilege. Thank you for having me on,
Yeah. Yeah.
and maybe we'll get a chance to do it again one of these days.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. You did really good, Mike, for your first podcast. You look great.
Oh shucks, thanks.
All right. Thanks again for joining this week's Generator Standby podcast. I'm Jim Swetman. Thank you very much for listening.
See ya.
Thank you for tuning in to the Standby Generator podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share. For more resources, tips, and to connect with other like-minded professionals, visit us at poweralliance.com or visit our social